Hello, so this is the answers to the new riders Q&A. There may be some random normal questions in there as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the top voted up comments, and then I'm going to go to newest, and then I'm going to have a skip through backwards and forwards. A lot of them will repeat, so hopefully if your answer isn't answered directly, someone else will have asked a similar question, because I'll be honest with you, the amount of questions that you have are probably about 20 or 30 that new riders have. Probably less than that, to be honest. So you might find that your answer will be within. Okay, so straight in with the most voted up comment. Emmett McNowan, I don't know, sorry. Is a Turbo Hayabusa a good starter bike? I'm 13 and I don't want to spend more than £200. Yes, perfect. Maybe I might vet the questions from now on. The next voted up question is from Slane. How do you think riding has helped your anxiety, depression? What ways do you find the best to deal with it? Oh Jesus, that is a massive, massive subject. Riding helps take your mind off things because you have to pay attention to what you're doing. So that really does help. Plus it fills you with endorphins, you get adrenaline, you basically getting on a bike turns on a lot of chemical receptors in your brain that you might not get sitting around. So that's why I think we're brought from feeling very depressed to feeling great within moments, because our brains before are crying out for these chemicals that it should be producing. There's no reason it's not, but it's just not. And then you get on a bike and boom, you just get all these chemicals and it feels amazing. So that's how. As for dealing with depression, I don't think riding helps you deal with depression. I think learning strategies, being realistic, understanding that what is said in your head isn't necessarily the truth. But we're getting into a whole different subject here entirely. And I've talked about depression many times. So as far as bikes related, I think it just dumps a load of chemicals in your brain, and that's why it helps. Kisba1, not a question, just tell people that a moped is not a bike, and also tell them to wear gear. That's uncalled for, completely. No. Well, I don't know, is a moped technically a bike? It has two wheels. Does it matter? No. I guess technically motorcycles start with legs either side and moped is legs within, but then there's it's down to engine size, I think, more than anything. And tell them to wear gear. I tell everyone to wear gear. But I do agree that moped riders, a lot of you don't wear gear. You should, and you'll regret it if you come off. But I could say the same for 1000cc riders as well. So let's not be hating and debating. It's all love round here. The mad world of chaos. At what point do you stop being a new rider? Good question. I guess that comes down to experience and how quickly you pick things up. But I would have said to get out of the I'm learning phase. Well, not that beyond that you don't learn, because it is a continual learning process, but at what point you cross over from new rider to sort of newer rider or less experienced rider, maybe a year or two. I would have thought a couple of seasons. If you've done 2 summers, it might take you longer. If you've done 2 years straight through the winter and everything, I think you've just found yourself in the class of rider, because so many people don't ride in the winter. David Kavana, I'm sorry if I've got that wrong. I'm dyslexic, what can I do? Is a 50cc a dangerous bike, as it would be difficult to get out of danger? I live in Dublin City, much traffic, etc. Never owned a bike, thanks. Right, in cities and towns and stuff, 50cc can actually be pretty good because they're nippy and they're light. Getting out of danger, that sort of, you need the power to get out of danger. Very few times has that ever happened that I've been like, I need the power to get out of this. But when it has, I've been glad for it to be there. The only time that is a thing is when you're near your maximum speed and you can't go any faster. So no, I don't think 50cc's are dangerous in town. I think they're perfectly good. That's what they're aimed for. If you start taking that 50cc into slightly faster roads, like 40s, 50s, 60s, that's when you start having the problems of not having that extra power. Or being able to just maintain a normal road speed. So, not dangerous in town. If that's what you're saying, if you live in a city, I think you'll be fine with the 50cc. However, I will add at this point, I don't think anyone should bother even getting a 50cc. If you need one to get around, if you're 16 and you just need a bike, it doesn't matter, yep, fine, okay, I see the reason. If you can just wait till you're 17, just get a 125. It's so much more bike, it's so much more capable. I rode one for 7 years, you can just keep riding them and they can do everything you need them to. Yeah, they're not great on motorways and stuff, but then neither is a 400cc Supermoto, as it turns out. And the thing is, if you get a 50cc, then within 1 year, you are going to want to just get on a 125. It's just going to happen. So you've just bought a moped, you bought your gear and everything, and now you're looking at selling this bike, getting this bike. If you can wait till 17, wait till 17. Many would agree with me. If you're in a position where you need transport and you have no choice, then go down the 50cc route. But be aware that that's the forfeit you're paying. Honest Bot 45. Hi Spicy. I once had sex with a woman who wanted to put a finger in my bum. With regards to this, what bike should I buy? I'm starting to wonder that you're not taking me seriously about this. Buy a V-twin that isn't balanced very well. I'm sure you'll get some joy out of it. I'm going to answer bike questions from now on. Some of these just get ridiculous. They're very funny, but... the Garden Shed vlogs, if you could give only one piece of advice to someone new to riding, what would it be and why? Basically, it's more of a little talk, which is, remember not to trust anyone. If it looks like they're going to let you go, don't trust them. Obviously, you can't just keep stopping for everyone, but you have to slow down and prepare for someone to do something unexpected. You have to expect the unexpected. Don't be an idiot. Another thing to remember is within a few months of starting to ride, you'll start getting control of the bike, and you'll start throwing it into corners a bit quicker and stuff, and you'll start to feel really confident in it. Be aware that that is the most confident that you will ever feel in your entire biking career, because it will keep growing, and then you'll crash. And then you'll realise that you aren't quite the riding god you thought you were, and that everyone has limits, and there are times and places of things. Some people probably won't agree with me on that, but I actually think that is very true. You know, when I was younger, I had 125, I watched some of my old videos, I'm throwing the bike round corners, and I'm like, but what if there was, but what if there, but what if? I've been through a fence, and I've had a car pull out on me and do me some serious damage. Trust me, the unexpected happens. So just basically be sensible. But enjoy it, because when you're in the right time at the right place, it's fantastic. But you do have to be realistic about these things. Keep your eyes open. Sloth Rider. Hey Spicy, what do you personally think about the new Lexmoto range? Would love to hear your thoughts, as no one else has really talked about them. Like, would you recommend them? Many thanks. Right, remember what I said about I can't talk about things without experience? Lexmoto, I've got lots of reviews on their bikes. You can go and look at my reviews. There's a playlist on the channel, and you can see what I think of those bikes. I think Lexmotos in general are good value for money and well-made bikes. They are going to be slightly lower in places, but they're like half to a third of the cost of some of the bigger brands. As for this year's models, not had a finger on one yet, not really seen one too closely. Obviously I'm in contact with Lexmoto, I've seen some of the pictures, and maybe even had a hand in naming the Hawk. But until I've actually got hands-on, I can't really give a valid opinion, and thus I won't. I can just say that Lexmoto generally do good stuff, but that's only on the basis the reviews you can go and watch and you can see what I say. Liam NC, do you like the Daytona 675R? Yes, beautiful bike, brilliant engine. Yeah, I've talked about that before and said I've been rather taken by that bike in the past. Right, let's actually try and answer some questions that people are interested in. I'm sorry, I can only answer what's been given. The Vlogging Sheep, sat CBT at 16, turning 17 now. Would you recommend doing A1, then A2A, or just wait to do the A? Right, I'm trying to remember the codes. If I was you, I would, don't bother doing the A1, which is the full 125 licence. I would just stick to CBTs. Because it will cost you less money in the meantime, and just go and do your A2 when it comes up, because you've only got a couple of years to wait, and you need one CBT, it's going to cost you 100 quid to go and do that. Maybe your insurance is slightly more, but my insurance didn't drop that much when I got my full licence. So I would say just wait, do CBTs, do the A2 when it comes up. Aussie Vlogs, sorry if I pronounced that wrong again. How did you cope with getting on bigger and heavier bikes after on a 125 daily commuter? How did you feel in confidence? Should I be worried, or am I just overthinking? You're always overthinking. Everyone overthinks everything. Overthinking is the basis of the human problem, in my opinion. To be honest with you, this is how it went down. I got to the test place, he said, here's a Gladius, which was massively bigger and more powerful than I'd ever ridden, and he said, jump on it and see what you can do. So I jumped on the bike, I went around a car park, did some U-turns, did some figure of eights, did an emergency stop, and he went, right, okay, well, we'll go out then. It was literally 5 minutes. He just left me to see what I could do. Natural ability to ride a bike will help. Maybe the weight and size of things is a bit easier for me to cope with, being 6'5" and a bit of a giant. But then I know people who are very small and used to 125s, and they then get onto a bigger bike, and at first they're like, ugh, and then they realise this is so much more stable, this is so much more comfortable, it's so much more relaxed and calm, it doesn't feel... Seriously, it's getting onto the bigger bikes, you think it's different, and it is different, but with the disadvantages of weight and all those things, you get advantages that make up for them, so don't worry about it. Just go and do it. Alex here, 18, I'm 87 years old, and I'd like to start riding. I heard Harleys are amazing for wheelies, and they're also good in the twisties because they're so fast and light. Help. Yes, you need help. Ollie plays, do you ever do meetups? Do you ever watch my videos? That's the question. Of course I do meetups. Obviously lots of people are asking about the Silly Sausage Fest 2017, you know, like, Spicy, when's it happening, when's it happening, when's it happening? It would be mid-summer time, so not for another maybe 4 or so months, so I can't start planning it yet. There's a few other bits and pieces that I'm going to have to see first, so sorry, can't give you a date yet, but in a couple of months I'll have a better idea. Howard Beals? As a new rider, shall I spend a bit more money on decent clothing, helmet, or stay cheap until I progress my abilities? Why would you want worse protective equipment when your abilities aren't as good? Wouldn't you think it should be the other way around? That when your abilities are good, you wouldn't need the equipment so much? That's just logic talking. Spend the money. You don't have to spend exorbitant amounts of money on your gear. Just get a good stamped helmet. It's got the safety stamp on it. You don't need to spend more than about 100 and 150 quid for a helmet. Jackets and textiles, they're pretty much of a muchness in the fact that when you crash, it's probably going to be completely knackered. So do buy something with decent armour in it, but textile or leathers, you can go cheaper on that and you'll be fine. Get good gloves, but again, you don't have to spend a lot on that. Get good boots, but you don't have to spend a lot on that. I mean, you could probably kit yourself out for, let's think, 100, 150, 250, for about 500 quid. I think you could get a full head-to-toe kit of good gear that will last you for a little while, and none of it will be too cheap. The one thing I would say though is don't buy RST boots because they fall apart. I've just emailed RST about my new boots. Yes, you remember the new ones to replace the old ones that fell apart? I've had them for less than 2 months. Yeah, the sole's falling off. Just adding on, but don't skimp out thinking that, oh, well, I'll get my helmet and I'll get my gloves and I'll get my jacket and I'll get my boots and jeans will be fine. No. Get Kevlar jeans as a minimum. Rock make good ones. Search Rock, which is R-H-O-K. That's 70 quid for a pair of Kevlar jeans, and basically, yeah, they will save your butt because you do not want to smash your knees to pieces. You do not want to take skin off your knees and have nerve damage and stuff because it's not good. Trust me, I've done it. I've learned. I was an idiot. Don't make a mistake like I did. Aaron Lamb, what do you think of the progressive access scheme? I think 5 years of riding to get more than 47 brake horsepower is a bit much. I agree with you that it is a bit much. However, let's think about this. 16, 17, I think is perfectly fine. The CBT, I think, is as should be. Maybe they should just allow people at 16 to get 125s. But they should, in doing that, make the CBT a little bit more strict and make sure that people are actually being pushed through the entire test with all of it. Well, not test, sorry, but the whole course. Because the amount of people that said, oh, you know, I did 2 hours and they let me go. You have to do 2 hours on the road, let alone the other 6 you're supposed to spend in a car park learning highway code and stuff. So I think regulations do need to increase. It doesn't need to be made more difficult for the person passing the test necessarily, but they do need to be more thorough on teaching lessons. So that's that. A2 licence, I think the A2, 47 brake horsepower at 19, is that? I think that's about right. I don't believe that any 19-year-old should be on a 1000cc bike, and any 19-year-old watching this is like, you're a dick, of course I should be able to. Trust me, if you've never ridden a 1000cc bike, when you're a few years older and you do, you'll be like, fuck me, if I was 19, 20 and I had this thing, I would be dead. Seriously, 47 brake horsepower is enough to get around with and go pretty quick. 200 brake horsepower is practically lethal in the wrong hands. And the problem is I don't believe many 19-year-olds are the right hands. There are some, so don't hate on me. Direct access at 24, I think that's a little excessive. I think direct access should be available from maybe 21. Because 24, you're only midway through your 20s before you can go direct access. That's ridiculous. As for the taking the A2, then having to pay and do a full test to get to the A1, not the A1, sorry, the A, I do think that the fact you come from a 47 horsepower bike onto something much larger, if they could make something that was maybe a half a day's course just to check your training, cost you 50 quid or something, just to, you know, like a quick health check on your riding, yeah, you haven't got too many bad habits, etc, etc, say a couple of hours or something, perfect, let them go on, sign them off and give them their full licence. I don't believe you should have to take the full test again to get your full licence. The way that it used to auto-update, I think, is a reasonable idea, but what I see the problem with that is, guy who's on 125, gets A2, some reason gets rid of his bike, doesn't ride it for 2 years, then suddenly realises he's allowed a full licence, gets a 1000cc bike, jumps on it and doesn't realise what a weapon it is and kills himself. Unfortunately, the stupidity of humans, you have to work for the lowest common denominator, which is the most stupid person. And that does mean that people like me or you or anyone else who is sensible enough to know when and not to do things suffers for it. But that's just life these days and health and safety. So progressive is good, but not the way that it currently is. Bring down the age of direct access to 21. That all seems about right to me. Although again, 21 on 21 on a 1000cc bike. I'm not like most. I probably would have been trustworthy enough, but I don't know actually. I don't know. No, probably not. Again, a lot of people might not like the fact that I think that there is some reason for there to be a progressive thing, but very often the ones who are shouting and crying the most about it are the ones who want to be on a bike now and they can't, so they believe the rules should be different so they can do it. It would be like a 16-year-old crying and moaning they can't go and buy cigarettes or alcohol in a shop. It's like, well, you're not old enough yet. And I know that sounds a little bit callous, but I know it's different, but you understand my meaning. You know, most of the petitions that I've seen that have been like, you know, change the licenses so you can go straight to an A or straight to, don't have to do the retake and all this stuff, are people in that position. I don't think many people beyond that position are going, let's start a petition to allow these people to blah blah blah. You know, sometimes I get messages from people saying, Spicy, you need to talk about this. This needs to be talked about. And I'm like, are you currently going through this? Yes, I am. That's why you think it needs talking about and you think it's a bigger issue than it really is. I'm not saying the licences isn't a bigger issue, but one thing I will also add to this, I know I'm going on for a bit now, but the licences is a big part of this. People petitioned about saying get rid of the progressive steps in the bike licence because the car drivers don't have to have it. Unfortunately, they've gone around and done it the other way now that they're looking at putting progressive into cars. And you will probably agree with that because you're like, them bloody car drivers are lunatics and how to control their cages, etc. And now you're like, ah, shit. Progressive licences, both sides, but with a bit more common sense, I think is a good thing. Because again, there is a massive difference between a 47 brake horsepower bike and a 200 horsepower bike, in the same way there's a massive difference between a Citroen Saxo 1.1 and a... God, that tells my age, doesn't it? Although I could have said XR2. You know, and then like a 4-litre Audi or something. Common sense. Simple common sense. DIVI, passed my DAS recently. I've got my lid and my motorbike jacket, but was wondering, are motorbike jeans, trousers and boots essential? Can I get away with steel toe boots? Only asking because I'm a bit on a budget and I don't have hundreds of pounds to spend on nice expensive boots and jeans. Also, if you can recommend any cheap jeans and boots I can offer good protection, that would also be great. Thanks for the advice. Boots, in the order of things, in the order of gear that you must have, in my opinion, it is helmet, gloves, jacket, boots, trousers. That's the order you must have. but don't skimp on the trousers. Get some rock jeans, I've already talked about in this video, as a bare minimum. Even the Force Rider jeans, they're only like 30 quid a pair, should have mentioned that earlier on. And they are perfectly adequate to help you in a crash. Normal jeans do nothing, it's like not having any on. So yes. As for boots, you can spend £100 on a pair of boots. Don't buy RST boots, they're rubbish. And you can get a reasonable pair of boots that will last you a while. Steel toe caps, they don't really have the ankle support for me. That's the thing in a crash, it's not losing my toes I worry about, it's smashing my ankle to pieces, so you need some ankle protection. Jake though, he uses like military style boots that are, you know, laced up, so the lacing keeps things straight, and he's never really had a problem. He's had lots of crashes. Lots and lots and lots of crashes. But personally I would say, no, you can't skimp on them, you need them. Get the boots first, then get the jeans, because, you know, road rash won't necessarily ruin your life, losing your feet might, to put it in a simple way. So, there's my opinion. Good luck. Rowan Vickery, been riding 125cc for about 8 months on a CBT. At what point should I put in for my full test? I think I'm ready, but I don't know if I'm being overconfident. You, sir, get yourself a gold star and a cookie because you have realised the fact that you could be being overconfident. Smart guy. And for that reason, I think you could possibly be in a good position to see if you're ready for your test. I assume the fact that you've been riding for 8 months and you're already looking, if you when you put testing, you're already over the age of 19, so you can go straight for your A2. Best advice I can give you, speak to a local riding school, maybe do like a morning's ride with one of them. They may even do it for free. It's a little assessment ride. You go out, you ride together, and they just give you a few sort of bit of feedback, and they'll say whether they think you're ready or not. If you're a sensible rider, go straight for it, dude. And the fact that you've acknowledged the fact that you could be being overconfident it makes me think that you're a little bit more switched on than some who would just be like, I'm ready. Obvious. So as I say, yeah, speak to a local school. You might be able to go out for a couple of hours. You might even get to ride on the larger bikes and experience a larger bike, and they can then say whether they think that is the right time for you to move on or if you need a bit more practice. But good luck, dude. Joseph Miller, I'm 20 and I've been riding 125s for 4 years now. Good on you, dude. I was going for 7. I'm going to do my A2 licence soon, so do you recommend getting a de-restricted 600 or a 3400? So basically, do you get a bike that you can restrict down, or do you get a bike that is already by itself under the power limit? I think it would be more fun to have the bike which is just as it is, and it just happens to be on the power limit because you don't have the throttle stops and you don't have any of these things. But I think it more depends on your future plan. If you see it as a stopgap, it's like, I'm getting this bike but then I want this bike when I get my full licence, then you could do either. I think you'd be fine either way before. If you were then looking at doing your full licence and possibly keeping the bike, well obviously then I think it would be nicer to have the bike that's restricted. It's only 2 years. And then take the restrictor off, and you could have a 90 horsepower bike that's been restricted down to 47. It wouldn't be very pleasant, I don't think, to ride, but I don't know. I just think overly restricted bikes could be an issue. But I can't give you a straight answer to that one. I think either is viable. But if you're planning to keep that bike after you pass your test, your full test, then go for the limited one. If not, get one of the smaller ones and sell it. Good luck. Wayne Bradford, is a Supermoto a good starter bike, and is it hard to do the CBT? Supermotos are great starter bikes because they're very easy to ride, they've got a nice position to them, they're relatively stable, great starter bike. Is the CBT hard to do? No, not really, but then that depends on your abilities, doesn't it? I mean, if you can't ride a motorcycle, then I would say it might be more difficult than someone who can. I do have a video called How to Do CBT or something like that. I'll put any relevant videos I think you might be interested in, I'll put them in the description with the titles, and then you can have a look through and be like, that'd be interesting, that'd be interesting. But again, good luck. Simon Harper, what is the good and the bad things about riding and owning a bike? Thanks. I hate cars. Bikes are good, cars are bad. Riding a bike is a full encompassing experience. Being in a car is being in a car. The disadvantages are that you can't put two mates on a bike, where you can but you shouldn't. You'll get wet and all the obvious things. It's such a different thing. Cars and bikes have totally different purposes. Cars are to, or as they say, it's so cliche, 4 wheels to move the body, 2 wheels to move the soul. It's cheesy as hell, but it does actually say something, which is, cars, for some people cars will do this too, so I'm not taking that away. I'm apologising because I've been hated on this before. Like, oh, I think cars are amazing. I'm like, yeah, you've never ridden a bike. So I'll stop. Put it this way, I'm aware that I'm more likely to die on a bike, I'm going to get wet, I can't carry as many passengers, I can't take things with me, it's cold, and all of these things. Is it worth it? 1000% yes, and I don't own a car. What makes it good and bad for individuals will vary, but generally freedom and just an experience of becoming one with a machine rather than sitting in a box. And I know you're then going to say, yeah, but in a car you become one with the machine. I agree, but your body position doesn't make so much of a difference to the car. On a bike, it corners by the way that your body is. You have to become part of the machine with the weight balancing. If you were in your car and you had to like lean into the passenger seat as you were doing stuff, then fair enough. Rony Fisher, what 125cc bike would you say is good for a 17-year-old, and would you consider test riding a Harley Davidson? Any 125cc is fine for a starter because that is what they are made for. Your budget will depend on what you can and can't buy. I would say don't go spending £4,500 on a Yamaha because that's ridiculous. Spending £2,000 or less on one of the Chinese ones probably would do you better. Again, there's going to be a lot of hate here about Chinese bikes, blah, blah, blah. I'm not even in the debate. I rode one for 7 years. This is my experience talking. I think they're fine. I've done reviews on them. If you think you disagree with me, well then you're going to need to have 7 years experience and working in the industry and knowing the people and all of these things to be able to make me consider changing my mind on that fact. Okay? Just to put it in short terms. Good ones. There are good and they're bad. I always say Lex Moto Adrenaline again. I think it's a brilliant starter bike. Of all the bikes, all the 125s I've ridden, I think that's probably the best little starter bike because it's fun to ride for me now. Still, much more than the other 125s that I've had. As a riding machine, the Adrenaline was always the best one. And have I ever considered test riding a Harley Davidson? Yes, I have considered it. I've tried to make it happen a couple of years, last year I think it was. Had some issues because it was to do with an event and the event never happened, blah blah blah. One day I will, but the problem at the same time is I don't really like them. It's not the cruisers that's the issues, it's maybe the technology and the price and the things that go with it. Not a hater. I'll talk to anyone that rides a Harley, it's, you know, each to their own. Just personally, they're not for me. Hamsternator, what do you think about riding in conditions like Storm Doris? Who the hell would name a Storm Doris? Yeah, I agree on the name. Riding those sorts of conditions is stupid and mental and you should never do it. And yet I do it every single time. I'm guessing you haven't watched my channel for long. I used to be a thing of mine which was, there is a storm, it's force 12 winds, and I have ridden in force 12, but normally force 10 to 11. It's force 11 winds, let's go out for a ride for a laugh. I've been in thunderstorms, massive storms. Yeah, you're really in the risk of getting blown off your bike. Yeah, you're in the risk of getting blown on the wrong side of the road, etc, etc. But what's life without risk? Timino, how do you reconcile the desire to want to learn to ride with the fear of the possible risks of riding on the road? Wow, that sounds like you're having sort of a battle in your own head there, or you're thinking about it as a subject like, I want to get a bike, but it could kill me. Obviously, I know that riding a bike makes me more likely to be killed. Riding a bike lots makes me much more likely to be killed on a bike. Riding lots of bikes that I don't necessarily know that well because I'm reviewing them and I'm having to try and push it sometimes a little bit. Again, it's a much bigger risk of dying on a bike. However, I don't feel like I'd have much of a life if I didn't. It's as simple as that. If I didn't ride bikes, sure, I'd find things to do, but my God, no. It's one of the biggest fears. This is one of the big problems with riding a bike, you see. The more that you ride bikes, the more like it becomes part of your life, the more sensible you find yourself riding because you don't want to risk losing your licence. And this is the thing, people are like, Spicy, he never goes that quick. Trust me, in nearly every video I will be speeding at some point. I will be going too quickly at others, but the point is when I get to a town, I will slow down. When I get to a congested area, I will slow down. When I don't know what's going to happen around the corner, I will slow down. I want to keep myself alive and keep my licence on my side so I can enjoy having the bikes. And then every now and then, in the right time, in the right place, when no one's looking, you find out what a 1000cc bike really can do. It's very much about self-confidence and your own abilities that gives you the happiness and the confidence to ride, I guess. Of course you'll be scared, or not scared, sorry, fearful, or words that I can't think of before you start, apprehensive before you start riding. If you don't know, it's the fear of the unknown. Go to a training school, get some training, try it out, you'll soon realise this isn't so bad. For someone who's 17, 6'4", and on a budget of around £1,500 for a used bike, what would you recommend? Well, at the time that I was getting my first bike, I was 21. I've been riding for years before that, the first road bike. 21, I was 6'5", and I had about £1,500 to spend, and I bought myself Pulse Adrenaline. You can't get a Pulse Adrenaline for £1,500 anymore unless you buy second hand, which is fine, but watch out because they have to be looked after to be good. Well, not Pulse Adrenaline, but or Lex Moto Adrenaline, or any of the, yeah, you know. They have to be looked after properly by someone who knows what they're doing to keep them in good condition. That is one of the downsides of the cheaper bikes. But they are out there. There are people who look after them. Or try and get together another couple £100 and get the Lex Moto Adrenaline, as I say. I think that is a good starting point. Of course, now I'll talk about, I'm sure someone will ask somewhere, is it worth getting a second-hand Japanese bike or a brand new Chinese bike? Because the Japanese bike's more reliable. A lot of what you're hearing is just parrots talking and no one talking from experience. Japanese bikes go wrong, it's a fact. Old Japanese bikes are going to go wrong because they're old and they will go wrong. Some will go on forever and some will be more reliable. Yes, there is no question over that. However, not all of them. The problem with 125s very often is the fact that the 125 owners who are 17, 18 who've never owned a bike before and don't truly understand how to maintain a bike. I have seen hideous things done to bikes. I have said to someone, when did you last change your oil? Oh, I don't think I've ever done it. Oh, how long have you had the bike? Oh, 2 years. Yeah, that sort of shit happens. You have one owner that does that, and then forever the bike's got problems. So, Chinese new versus second hand, you can't really compare new versus second hand because you're not getting the warranty and all the other bits and pieces. I personally would always say, put the money into a Chinese bike, look after it, and it should see you good. You've got a 2-year warranty on it. You do have to keep up the servicing to do that, but the intervals are a lot better than they used to be. Or get the Japanese bike and you might very well be in a good place with a good bike and it will see you good for years and you'll sell it on and you won't lose hardly any money on it and everything's great and dandy. Or you get one of these. It's a lemon. In which case your money has just been fucked off and goodbye. That's the risks, and unfortunately there is no real answer to that unless you have mechanical knowledge to be able to know if the bike you're looking at is in good condition or not. Of course then the questions are, people say, well, what are the good things to look for? Check for oil leaks, check for weird noises. The problem is if you don't know what the bike's supposed to sound like, you're not going to know if it's a weird noise. Inexperience is a huge problem. If you're going to look at a bike, like a second-hand Japanese bike, for God's sake, try and take someone with you who actually knows what they're talking about, not your mate who thinks he knows what he's talking about, because my God have I met some people who think they know what they're talking about, and they don't. Anthony Butler, Spicy, how would you go about riding in these weather conditions? Simply, this is the way that I see riding in different conditions. In the summer, you have grip, you have dry roads, that's the time to have fun and play a bit, where it's right, when you have the experience, relatively sensibly, etc. I have put so many caveats on that. This is what experience teaches you. When it's winter, and it's cold and you don't have much grip and it's wet, and all, you just don't ride like you do in the summer. It's not about going into corners and being like, yeah, look how tight you can corner, and all. It's about, let's get around this corner and not crash. So how do you go about it? Very carefully. It's a simple answer. Avoid if it's really bad and your riding abilities aren't really high. Charlie Tibbles, would you recommend suggest a 22-year-old should take an A2 now but don't have space for a bike? I get what you're saying. You're saying, should I take my test now and not have a bike yet and then get one in the future? Or shall I wait till I can get a bike and then do the test? That's the sensible one, because if you learn to ride now and then you don't ride for 2 years, then you get a bike and jump straight on it, you're as bad as a new rider. If you haven't had the experience coming up to that point. So definitely wait till you can go license bike, done, on the road, because that is the way that you'll learn best and it will keep you safest. I would say that if you did it the other way around, your likelihoods for crashing are probably up more than 50%. I think most people would probably agree with me on that one. So, interesting question. Thank you very much, Charlie. Good luck to that, but I would say definitely wait until you can have the bike and use the experience. Experience is everything, because in a car you make a mistake, you know, so what? Do it on a bike, you could be dead. Putting things in simple terms. Grizzly Moto, I started on a Kawasaki Z750. Is it a smart to start on a 750 as a new rider? 750s can be a good starting point. It all depends on the rider. I would say their age. I mean, if someone says, you know, I'm 40, I've just started riding, shall I get straight onto a 125 or can I go for a 700? You've probably got most of your adolescent out of you. I would say age and responsibility and just the person you are that would say whether you can and can't do that. I would not advise most 20... Well, they can't anyway, because you can't do that until you're 24. If you're 24 and you want to go straight onto a big bike, yeah, I don't see why not, because you're going to have to go through the CBT, and you're going to have to go through all those things anyway, so you're going to slowly progress, and they'll give you training to make you learn. I think the thing you have to remember, though, is experience is everything in biking. If someone's been on a CBT and ridden a 125 for 2 years, versus someone who's just done their full test and got a 750 and been riding for a week, the person who's been riding for 2 years has got massively more experience and would be probably a better, more judged rider than the person who's been riding for a week. Even with the age gap, possibly, experience is everything. And seriously, it's everything. So this is not a polarised answer, this is very much down to the person. Christine St John, hi Spicy, I wear glasses under my helmet to be able to see. How do you cope with visor fogging up while riding? Do you get a bandana? I've got a bandana, I've tried leaving a gap, but it's pissing down all... okay, yeah, it's the age-old problem. You need something called pin lock, which is a piece of plastic which fits within your visor and stops it fogging up. Or get contacts, that could also help. I know you say glasses, but contacts, if you can deal with putting them in your eyes. I'm not very experienced on that side of the glasses. Contacts, my eyes are fine, these are as is. I keep holding my breath practically. Yeah, no, seriously, get a pin lock if you can. It can be fitted to any helmet. Go to your local bike shop, talk to them about it. There are some different things you can use, different chemicals to wipe on the inside. I don't think they work too well. The classic one is getting a drop of fairy liquid and rubbing it on the inside of your visor and then buffing it out. That should give you a surface that doesn't let the nuclearization points, I think it is, where the fogginess and the steam starts building up, happen. It sort of stops that from happening. So you can try that, but don't go so far with it that it smears it and you can't see. You're just supposed to put like one drop on like a cloth and just rub it in. What I tend to do is I just put a couple of drops on a piece of kitchen paper with water and wipe it on the inside and the outside, then dry it off and buff it, and that normally, at least for 1 or 2 rides, will stop it fogging up. Andy Bryant, how's things, Spicy? They're not too bad. How's the Tracer? Davey Batchy, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. How do you feel about scooter riders? Do you class them as real bikers? Do you think they should be welcome at Lumies? Not just you, but other bikers. Right, a lot of bikers have a thing against scooters because they look down on them, forgetting the fact that we all started on small bikes, maybe not on scooters, but we all started somewhere. People are far too judgmental about bikes, you know, and it works. It's not just scooter riders. Scooter riders, unfortunately, get it from everyone. They're like, you know, they're bottom, so you get shit on by everyone. Even me riding in the middle on a 600, I'll have 1000cc people telling me, you need to get a real bike, you need to get a faster bike, it's not fast enough. It's like, it does about 130 mile an hour, and it gets to 0 to 60 faster than pretty much most of the cars on the roads. It's fast enough. And then the 1000cc riders will get told by Harley riders to get a real bike, so no one's ever going to win on this one. Sometimes, you know, I'm actually more respectful to scooter riders than big bike riders. Why? Because in the winter time, as I'm driving down the road, I'm like, right dude, nodding at the scooters, nodding at the 125s. Every now and then I'll see a big bike. The summer comes out, big bike, big bike, big bike, big bike, big bike, and they're like, yeah, I'm a rider. Yeah. I don't ride when it's wet. That's okay. You see, I could start a real debate there. Are you a real biker in the UK if you don't ride in winter? Of course you are. You just probably won't have as much natural control in the wet. maybe. Time bolt on my CBT, I didn't get the hang of controlling the clutch. Should I do another CBT and try to learn the clutch, or should I get a scooter and get comfortable with 2 wheels first? Don't redo the CBT, take a training day. I personally think that you would be far better off on something that's manual. If you eventually want something that's manual, you don't want to do what a lot of people do, which is, oh, I can't ride a manual, so I'm going to ride a scooter, and then in 6 months' time I'll go and buy a manual and then try and ride it on the road. Yeah, that's not a good way around of doing it. So I would say if you don't have your own bike to be able to practice in a car park or something, don't ride there, obviously. Make sure you've got private landowner's permission, etc. Cut so many fucking loopholes. Basically, try and learn it. It's not difficult. It's as simple as this. Bit of throttle on, slowly let the clutch out. Once you're moving, you can let it out more. Once you get it, once it clicks in your head, you won't be thinking about it. I mean, like when I ride a bike, when other people like me ride bikes, do you think we're thinking, right, pull in the clutch, do this? No, it's just, it's like walking forwards. You don't think, okay, left leg up, bend this knee, bend this ankle, do this. You don't do any of that. It's just go. Crazy Bam, nobody's watching this far in. Oh ho ho, are you wrong, buddy? There, got your back. Thanks, dude. Jeff Carey, why don't all bikes nod back at me? Is it because I'm on an L plates? Is this something you've experienced when you're on L plates? Some riders don't nod back at you because some riders don't nod back at anyone. They're far too good for you. You'll very often find people on very expensive bikes are like that. The truth of the matter is, yes, some people won't nod at you because you're on L plates and they're twats. Some people just don't nod at people. It's not a judgmental thing, they just don't get it and they don't do it. But the people who choose to nod at other people on sports bikes and no one else, are just dicks. We're all on 2 wheels. Don't be so judgmental of everyone. Everyone likes a different flavour, and the thing that makes me laugh the most is that the classic thing the sports bikes guys say is things like, you know, oh yeah, don't like Gixxers, too many people have got them. But then you have someone on a different bike and they're like, it's not a sports bike. You can't have both! So I won't worry about it, dude. If someone chooses not to nod at you because you're on L plates, then personally I don't think that they're worth talking to. Oh, someone asked me about Loomies, the 50cc thing earlier, about are people on 50cc's welcome at Loomies? Hell yeah! I don't know where this has come from. I run the social media for Loomies, as you may well know, and I've come across this time and time again, that someone somewhere is telling people that 125s and 50cc's are not welcome at Loomies. They are more than welcome. Of course they're welcome. Let's talk about this in brass tacks. You spend money like anyone else. But the other difference is that the 125 guys and the L plates guys, they tend to ride together, so they get together in groups, go out for a group ride. They're safer because they're in a bunch, not just one bike going slower, so and then they get up Loomies, have some lunch with each other, hang out, and then shoot off. Of course you're welcome. Right, sorry, just had to change memory card. I am up to an hour now. This video might be super long, but I'm going to try and whip through and answer some of the main questions that I think are going to come up. So I'm going to try and get this all in one video. It's not ridiculous. Somewhere here there'll be, oh, I can't see one. Somewhere here there'll be a question about how do I convince my parents to let me ride a motorcycle. That's very difficult. It's not something I ever had to try and deal with. Very much, if your parents are dead against bikes, then they're dead against bikes, and you're probably never going to convince them. But you will get to a point in your life where you're like, I do appreciate that you're my parents, and I'm glad that the way that you raised me, but I wish for you to realise that if you believe in your own parenting abilities, that you can trust me to be sensible on a bike. You have to basically prove to them that you're not going to be an idiot. How you do that, I don't know. But it's, as I say, it's not something I've never really had to deal with, because my parents, even from when I was quite young, they knew that I was sensible enough not to do anything stupid. And I was trusted with all sorts. When I was at 6-7 years old, I was driving speedboats and shooting shotguns and all sorts of stuff. My family is not about, you know, cotton wooling their kids into not doing anything. It's about learning to be experienced and being trustworthy, that you can be trusted with given a loaded gun, and being trusted at 7 to know to keep the muzzle to the ground, don't do this, don't do it. So as you can see, for me it's very difficult. Others have made videos talking about it that basically just says, look, you need to cut the fricking umbilical cord and let your kids live. Because if you're wrapping cotton wool their whole lives, when they finally get to being out on their own at 18, 19, 20 or whatever, they're not prepared for this world. It's like people who hide them away from all the nastiness and all the horrible things in this world. Fuck that! Then your kid is completely set up to be like, oh shit, I never knew what this world was really like. Where's all the flowers and the rainbows and the unicorns? Why are there dead people everywhere? It's not necessarily the answer you were looking for, but you see my point. Magnus, I got a H2R as my first bike, only to rev it, never rode it. Frankly, I don't believe you. Alex Peace, are you going to be test riding any more Lex Motos in the near future? Thanks. Probably about May is when I'll start reviewing the new Euro 4 Lex Motos. Until that point, we're having a bit of a break because the bikes that are available to me at the moment aren't Euro 4, so they're not relevant. So that's why. So as soon as I can, I will. Yes. Two-wheeled maximum. Do you love me? I do, because you commented on one of my videos. Hope you liked it too. Gladius John, why are you always riding on the wrong side of the road? Genius Tamayulavilish. I'm dyslexic in English. I'm sorry, I just murdered your name. Can I call you John? I'll call you friend. Hello, friend. Is a Supermoto stock seat comfy enough to make my butt not feel horrid after a long trip? Interesting one. I don't know. It all depends on your ass, I think, because the seat on the DRZ, people say, is horrible. I can't ride more than 10 minutes on that thing. And I can ride 5 hours on it and be like, nope, it's fine. Yeah, it's not as comfy as a wider sports seat, but 4, 5, 6 hours riding, it doesn't cripple me, but for other people it does. And in that case, you can get the gel seats. And they do gel seats for, you know, you get like the carcass and they build it on top, or you can buy one specifically for them. They're not cheap, mind. But to be honest with you, a Supermoto doesn't have a seat for long ride comfort because a Supermoto is not good for long rides. Because the engine doesn't like it. It's more about what the bike doesn't like than what you don't like, although it's both. But yeah, unless you're doing like, you know, long just riding at normal speeds around, but you're doing it for long hours, then yeah, I get what you're saying. Don't know. I'd have to feel your arse to know. Kill all survivors. I have an A2 licence and ride a sporty-ish bike, and I'm thinking of getting a cheap 125 Supermoto as a secondary bike later this summer. Do you think riding a smaller bike again gives you greater appreciation and of a more powerful bike? If so, how much? Yes, it will firstly remind you of how little power 125s have really got. And then when you ride it for a while and you get back on your bike which has got a load of power, you're going to be like, oh my god. But then you'll start realising why having no power, not no power but a lot less power, is fun. Is because you can rag it through every single gear to the red line, flying through corners, and you're not breaking the speed limit most likely. You could be driving without due care and attention, but generally you can ride a 125 to its maximum ability under the speed limits, which you just can't do on any other bike. Yes, I think it will give you a much greater appreciation of having more power if you haven't ridden a 125 for a long time, and it can be a good laugh. I definitely advise if you get the right sort of, as with Supermoto, yeah, perfect, do a bit of green lining. Something you've never really experienced if you've had a sporty-ish bike, do a bit of green lining. It's great fun. Get a couple of mates together if you can, get down some green lines. You know, you slip on a bit of grass, fall over, you don't get hurt, and it's the funniest day you've ever had. Moto Madness, I have a WR125, I just can't master counter steering. Got any tips about counter steering? You are already counter steering. You cannot ride a bike without counter steering, it's impossible. When you turn right, if you're just turning the bars like that, straight right, you're not turning. You have to go left, then right, and that's part of counter steering. You don't, this is the thing, counter steering is kind of, it's talked a lot about, but you don't really think about it when you start riding more. I don't tend to try and counter steer actively mentally on my SM. On the sports bike I will, but basically counter steering, if you don't know, is after a certain speed, about 12 miles an hour on a two-wheel machine, when you push the right bar, you expect the bike to go left, because you know, bars like this, you push the right side, it's going to turn the wheel that way. Wrong. What it does is it makes the bike, it turns like that, which makes the front wheel lean, which gives the centrifugal force pushes over and actually leans the bike to the right. So if you're going around a right hand bend, you want to push the right bar away from you, not pull it towards you to go around that corner. It's hard to explain, but if I was you, the way to start experiencing it is, if you've got some long, nice, sweepy corners, is get into it doing about 40 maybe, and just start very gently leaning on the inside bar, and just notice how that will create the bike to turn in, and how that affects it. Once you start realising that, you'll understand it easier. But don't think that counter steering is a thing that you actively do. It isn't, unless you're going really quick, and then sometimes you are thinking about it. I mean, some corners I'll get into and I'm like, okay, I'm putting the power on, I know I need to get things a little bit more in line, so I'll just gently push on that inside bar rather than thinking that I'm turning. Such a difficult one to explain. I've gone to the very bottom. This is the first comment that's, well, I don't know if it's first or first because of this listing, but mean guy, would you ever buy a bike like Betty again, the exact same, and is a Lexmoto a reliable brand? Well, no, I wouldn't buy Betty exactly the same because it was a Pulse and they don't make Pulses anymore, and Lexmoto is Pulse. Is it a reliable brand? Yes, it seems to be. Lots of people are very happy with them. They sell more bikes than... I'm not doing that one. I sound like a fucking Lexmoto advert. And I'm not working for them, trust me. So we'll pick another one. Question. The last one will be Splash Players. I've been riding for a few months now and I'm currently riding a Pulse Adrenaline, but I feel like it's a bit too big for me. I'm not confident as I should be going around sharp corners. I rode my friend's Lexmoto XTRS and feel a lot better. Do you think it's a good idea for me to swap to the XTRS? I don't know about swapping, whether that's a good swap or not, if you're doing an actual like trade of some sort, but if you're quite short, an SM style bike will not be great for you because you haven't got the long legs. The long legs. That's why the riding style of an SM is very different from a sports bike. On the SM, if I'm going through a tight corner, I'm going to sit on if I'm going through a left-hand corner, I'm going to sit on the right-hand side of the seat, lay the bike down, and put my foot out, sort of, and lean with it at the same time. So you kind of, you know, you don't... It's really hard to explain. But on a sports bike, because you're more within the bike, then you just have to get off of it slightly, and because the centre of gravity is much lower, it will corner better. It will feel like it's cornering better. You can corner an SM faster than a sports bike if it's tight enough, but then there is a point where it doesn't work out. So if you find you're more confident riding that style of bike, then go for it. But remember that you lose the ability to go green laning or off-road and the stuff like that. So horses for courses and all that crap. Anyway, this has been long. Very long. I've got an hour and 15 minutes worth of footage. I was going to quickly check, see how many comments I got on that video, because every video I do like this, people say, "Oh, you didn't answer my question," and it has 346 comments. What have I replied to? 15, 20? And it's taken me maybe an hour. I don't know how long this video is. Apologies if it's really long. But new riders, my final words: get your gear, be sensible, but mainly have fun, because riding a bike will change your life for the better. But you have to understand that with that comes the risk that it could end your life. So be sensible and do the things that I said. But my final word on it is this: the biggest risk in life you can take is taking no risks and having no life. Oh, I can't get around the camera. Yeah, I can. Yeah! But, bye. Oh, and subscribe and like the video and all those things and tell your friends, because my God, do we need some help on this channel.
It's a nice funny day. Well, it's Sunday. Dave. Oh, shitting hell, mud. That is going to have someone off.